Hey guys, Vincent here with Dance Games Daily. I just wanted to preface this video with the topic and let you guys know how I decided to edit this video. This episode's interview is with ChiefSkittles, talking about how he learned how to get into writing stamina and also going through a few charts to understand how stamina charts are written. The original interview was very long, so I had to make a lot of cuts in the chart reviews. That said, ChiefSkittles has uploaded his director's cut that I'll link in the description. This video preface was originally meant to warn you guys that a lot of content may be potentially missing from this interview, but it turns out Trevor's director's cut might actually be shorter than mine. Once I started editing this video, I realized that there were a lot of things that Trevor said that was important to document, and things that I originally intended to cut were left in. Stamina step writing is something that's commonly misunderstood, and I feel like it's my responsibility to use this opportunity to put as much information out there as possible, so that maybe in the future, stamina writing is something that's appreciated a little bit more. Shoutouts to some of my best friends and original Stamina family, Rust, Storytime, ChiefSkittles, Red Zone Nova. Thank you for continuing to support Dance Games Daily, and enjoy the interview. Alright guys, welcome to Dance Games Daily, where I talk about dance games every weekday. Today we have a special guest on. He is primarily known, maybe, to my audience as a tech step artist, but is also very good at writing stamina. In fact, he's actually made more money doing stamina writing competitions than he has tech writing competitions. We have Trevor, aka ChiefSkittles. How you doing, man?
A little sleepy, but I'm all right.
I'm doing good. People don't ask me that.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm always the person to ask how the other person is. They never return the favor.
They're just so excited to see you, they can't even wait to get into it.
Maybe they have, and I've just forgotten. But either way, before getting into your intro and background and expertise, I want to talk about the topic for this episode, which is talking about ITG stamina step writing, because there's a big stereotype, particularly outside of people who play stamina, where they see ITG stamina, it's all streams, and they just think it's mindless. But the truth is that in the modern era, step artists put a lot of thought into how they handle patterning. But the issue is actually, I play a lot. I think I'm pretty good at stamina, and honestly, I still don't recognize what stamina charts are good and which ones are bad and why they're good. Like, I recognize when patterns are hard, I can recognize when patterns are comfortable or uncomfortable, but when it comes to determining whether a stamina chart is good or consistent, that's kind of why I have you on to educate me a little bit.
I'm flattered.
So, I guess, who are you? What's your history with games?
So obviously I'm Trevor, ChiefSkittles, Skittles, Tev, a brief stint as Admiral M&M's, but I stopped doing that. It stopped being funny. So, history with the game. Well, like the vast majority of North American dance game players, I started playing DDR. Excuse me. In middle school, I think I was 12 or 13 at the time, but I only played it like kind of casually, one of those, you're in the mall, you see the game kind of things. I played it casually a little bit here and there. Never really took it seriously, didn't have regular access, and eventually lost access. So I consider myself as having started playing dance games seriously in probably 2014, 2015 is when I started, I had regular access, so about 6 or 7 years ago. Based on the last edit date of my oldest sim files, I started stepping about 5 years ago. As many people may know, I primarily play and step tech. I've written a handful of charts you may know: Arcology, Panjandrum, Bubble in the Air.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, they show up now and then. Have some occasional tournament appearances with those. And I first I like for the longest time I only really played in stepped tech. I didn't really get into stamina. Like I was aware of it, and like I would occasionally like play the odd like Cirque du Zeppelin 12 or 13 or something. But I didn't really start seriously getting into stamina until around Stamina RPG 2, ECS 7. Pretty much just ignored it prior to that, and like a lot of people, I legitimately just did not understand that stream patterning could be used to represent the music. Like I thought it was just all, oh, it's just a bunch of arrows, some of them are fast, some of them are slow, whatever. It's just arrows. So up until then, like I didn't have the experience and the knowledge until SRPG 2, which was 3 years ago.
Been a hot minute.
It's been a little while.
I've participated in every SRPG, and I have no recollection of that one.
Well, we're about to start 5 in a couple months, so I guess it was 3 years ago.
Oof.
Yeah, really. Where'd the time go, man? So I started playing it a little bit then, and as I started playing it, I think subconsciously I began to kind of internalize some of it, but I didn't really like study it or get into it. But I didn't really make a first attempt at writing a true dedicated stamina sim file until the until I was requested to join with the collab pack Comiket 95. Shoutouts to Okami for extending the invitation to me. So with that pack, I did a collaboration chart with Rims on Funk Assembly, which you may recognize as still being in tournaments today as a regular appearance for like Stamatech. So I wrote the tech side of the Stamatech, so to speak. I also wrote another chart called Lotus Quest. And that was like my first real attempt at like writing stamina. Like specifically for stamina play and not just a song that happened to be kind of streamy. So I think that was probably early 2018. And then around a little bit later in the year, Okami approached me again after the reception of my work in Comiket 95. He was going to do a series of packs that he labeled Stamina Factory, where each it was going to be like a monthly or a bi-monthly release thing, and each month or each release would be a different step artist stepping music entirely by a single artist. So that pack series ultimately never came to fruition, but I had already begun a pretty significant amount of work on my selection, which was DJ Myosuke. So that pack eventually, or not eventually, but because even though Stamina Factory did not come to fruition, I didn't just abandon all the work I had already done on DJ Myosuke. So that eventually became a solo release. A fun, I guess you could say, a fun fact about DJ Myosuke is that around the time that I was writing it, this is like late 2018, early 2019, I'd say, just trying to remember, kind of all a blur. That's when I started getting a lot of very high quality, in-depth feedback. That's pretty much when the vast majority of my mental growth and like my craftsmanship for stamina grew was during this time. So as a result, the DJ Myosuke pack that you may play today is actually technically the third DJ Myosuke pack I've made because I restepped the entire pack twice. It's still a tragedy, but it's much better than it was. So that eventually, it didn't release until I think early 2020, maybe a little bit earlier than that, like late 2019, early 2020. I would actually have to go back and check.
Who was primarily giving you feedback on these charts?
So that would be, it was a lot of Rims, because he is an absolute master at providing good feedback. Like the guy's a saint. I can't begin to fathom how much time it takes him to write up the critique and reviews he does, and he just does it. I guess he enjoys it, but man, it's got to be a time sink. But so I got a lot of feedback from Rims, and I would say that when I first started, trying to intentionally write quality stamina files, I would say my primary influences, the artist that I looked at and said, that's who I want to be like, was Zaya. I think Zaya has basically defined like 3 different generations of stamina metagame.
He deserves 3 different interviews, probably.
I don't know how he does it. Wow. So Zaya definitely is a big influence. Rims also, they both were just like pretty much the key drive, like the key forces behind how I use things like motion and directional facing to accent music in my files, which again we'll talk about later. And another big influence is, and also to say nothing of the other 2, they're all fantastic friends of mine, but another big influence and one of my best friends, Storytime. He pretty much, I would say, like in like a casual, what to him was probably a casual offhand like conversation, he pretty much like single-handedly taught me how to use candles 100 times better than I was using them. It just kind of comes naturally to him. And then as I'll mention here in a second, 3 other players that I did want to mention, Arvin, Levitas, and Aoreo, I would say were key in me learning how to write higher speed content, which, segueing here, one chart that I would want to specifically mention, at least briefly, from DJ Myosuke is the chart for Source of Creation. So Source of Creation is a 190 BPM song that's written, it's a lot of swing, 12th note swing. I know that's not a real term. Sorry. Purple Boys, whatever. It's a very purple song. So at the time, I can't remember what inspired me to do it. I think it was just because I wasn't sure what else to do with the song. I wrote it as 24ths at 190 BPM, which is effectively... I mean, what? What?
That's a little fast.
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it. So it's effectively 285 BPM stream, which to everyone watching at home, if you think there's no way anyone can do that, you'd be surprised. So I wrote that. I did write it seriously. I won't say I wrote it as a joke, but it was terrible. Like, just, not sugarcoating it. It was a very poorly made chart for that kind of speed. Of course, I had no idea. I didn't know because I can't stream 285. It was my first attempt at ever doing it. So yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. But I got a lot of incredible, like, really in-depth feedback from the three people I mentioned: Arvin, Levitas, Aoreo, also Ian Berg, not Ian Piles, Ian Berg. He's helped me out a little bit. So it actually, like, it helped me whip the chart from being hot garbage, unplayable to pretty quality high-speed content, which is I take a little bit of pride in that still, because I'm really just kind of going by what feels right and the feedback I get, because I can't test that. So as a result of that, I started learning, rather than like starting trying to write stuff that I could play, I wanted to play, I could test. I kind of, because at the time I wasn't super seriously playing Stamina. I was just enjoying writing it because it was something different from writing tech, which at this point I could probably write in my sleep, whether I want to or not.
Oh, I've seen you. You practically do.
Oh yeah. I did write that when I was basically asleep. Yeah. Anyway, so as a result of that, like, I started, most of my stream writing was stuff that, I was writing like 180, 190 BPM songs. I'd start charting them as 24ths. Like, I'm writing 280, 290, 300 BPM streams that 4 people in the world can play. Just because, well, they're my friends and they didn't really have very much content to play. So I thought, well, if I know how to do it, why not do it?
Actually, I have a couple questions, if it's all right.
Okay.
So, I know Zane's talked about this in his interview with Beremy, but how does it feel in general to write content that you're unable to play? And in those early iterations, what were kind of the biggest offenses that made your first attempts at that really bad?
So how it feels, well, to be honest, it feels the same way as every other chart I write. I'm really just trying to do the music justice, and that's all I really take into account. Like, you certainly don't think I wrote Override because I actually wanted to play Override. Because I don't think I've ever actually finished that chart. But it's really cool. So I do the same thing with, 10 minutes of 270 BPM stream. Please look forward to playing Star of Collapse and Upper Division ECS 9.5. That one I actually did write as a joke. It ain't a joke.
But it's in.
It's in.
It's in.
It's in. But anyway, so yeah, like, when it comes to stuff like that, I would say that since I can't play it, if anything, I feel like I'm able to just fully let go of, oh man, what if this is a little uncomfortable, or what if this is a little awkward, or something like that. Like, it just lets me fully get into, how do I use the 4 arrows I have available to me to make someone feel like everything they're doing was always a part of the music. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, if it fits I mean, and there's, like, I'm not doing, like, within reason, like, even if you're trying to paint even if you don't believe in, like, 99% of artistic conventions, if you're trying to paint a picture, you literally can't paint on air where the canvas isn't there. And that would be the equivalent of doing, like, a measure long tower at 320 BPM. That isn't real.
Yeah.
What was the other question?
I think the thing I was wondering about is kind of what high level players found not good about your charts when you had first attempted writing.
Ooh, right.
Things that difficult.
So the very, very, very first one that I wrote, Source of Creation, that I mentioned, it was very much like, it was a lot of just like, steppy is the term. I don't want to use too many like high level stamina, like, chart writing jargon. I want to make sure it's easily understood. But it was that one was just basically like very heavy step patterning. It wasn't stuff that you could just slide your feet and easily hit.
Yeah, I think the way I would describe it is that the modern players optimize their form that supports, like, a certain play style, and, like, the way that you were writing was not complementary to that playstyle.
Correct. Yeah, and it was simply because it was at a level like I couldn't fathom playing it, so I just did what I thought was right, and it wasn't right, so I fixed it. After that one, though, I would say that the number one issue that my charts had while I was first learning was that they were very bland and played everything very, very safe. Yeah, you could play them. They were comfortable because they did nothing. It was literally just like alternating staircases with no candles and maybe like a left, right, left or something. It was very bland. So a big part of learning how to write stuff like that was learning how daring I could get with my patterning and how much, like, what I could do to inject character and life into the patterns without making the chart just like not fun to play. Now, as a side note, when you're writing 290 BPM streams, it's a little more restrictive than writing like 160 BPM streams, and that's another thing that we can get into if you want. Like, certain things work at certain speeds, they don't work at other speeds, and sometimes they do work at other speeds, but to do completely different things. So it's kind of, it's not like super intuitive. You kind of have to develop a sense for it. It helps to either be able to play it or just have someone that you can count on to tell you what works and what doesn't. But eventually you just have to like understand how many tools are in your arsenal at any given point.
Yeah, I guess one thing that worries me a little bit is that you made a chart and you had, you're a pretty deliberate charter. You have intention behind every arrow that you place, but then the feedback is given to you that the patterns are too steppy, that it doesn't complement a certain form. Do you feel like adjusting for other people's playstyles is compromising the original intention that you had? If that question makes sense.
It does. I would say that at the time, it probably did. But the cause for that it's twofold, actually. Number one is that I was still learning what I could and couldn't, should and shouldn't do. Not just at high speeds, but at any speed. So I was still learning. So like my selection of tools was fairly limited. I would say another thing, which in hindsight, we probably made a bigger deal out of it than we should have, but it's in the past now. The meta game of high speed, like foot speed style stuff, was undergoing some fairly significant and rapid shifts in what was good or bad, doable, not doable, comfortable, not comfortable. Like we had we actually had a joke at one point, the ivory tower, as we jokingly refer us, we take everything as a joke. We actually had a joke at one point, where it was like, oh, well, we'll have a foot speed showcase instead of a stamina showcase or a tech showcase. And the joke was that it's just one judge and they review the chart in 4 different months and they give it a different score each time. Like, it was funnier. It's funnier when we said it. Trust me, it was funny at the time. I promise. But the joke, like, I mean, the truth behind the joke was that, like, literally in the term of just a couple months, you had these 4 or 5 people at the tippity top of the foot speed heap who were going from, this is literally impossible. Don't, this doesn't work. Don't do this, to write more stuff like this. Everything else is already too easy. Like, and it, it was just like, that was the feedback that people writing high speed stuff were getting. So sometimes it just was better to play it a little safe because it was just, the meta was just all over the place at that point. So I hope that answered your two questions. I feel like we could have had another interview entirely about that. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to sum up this question, do you feel like you were able to, because like you had original intentions writing a chart, and then they give you feedback saying it should be a different way to complement a play style. So do you feel like you just ended up then kind of relearning what tools they wanted you to use? That way you can express the same intention, just maybe in a different way?
I would say yes, on the basis that before you can do, and in this case, it's a fairly extreme example because I was writing like the highest speed content I could at the time. I would say that at the time, like, it was a matter of I couldn't do anything exciting or artistic yet because I hadn't learned the foundation yet.
Okay, before you do sense,
before you can do anything that's daring or experimental, you got to walk before you can run.
Right.
You got to stream 100 before you can stream 400. Following DJ Myosuke, concurrently with that whole thing about source of creation, learning how to write high speed, because that's a whole other that's another rabbit hole. Concurrently to that, I actually, while DJ Myosuke was on its third restep, I think, I actually wrote an entire mini pack called Resistance Device, named for the album of the same name, Resistance Device, by Matatabi Sound System, which is one of Kabario's like 8 aliases. So this was kind of like my testing grounds for stuff that I was learning while writing DJ Myosuke a million times over. This one I would say, like, I honestly think it's probably a better pack than DJ Myosuke, maybe aside from a few standouts in the latter. I feel like I was a lot better at using using patterning to represent musical elements in ways that actually fit really well and meaningfully. But I was kind of reserved in the patterning that I did use, partially because I was mostly writing really high speed, like for fun or for practice, I would write really high speed stuff. So I was kind of applying that high speed meta to my normal speed charts, because I wasn't sure like where the line was where like I could get away with certain things. So I was just doing what I knew worked at 280 for writing 180. I still think the pack's good. I just feel like there was some of the stuff I did was a little limited in terms of artistic expression.
And that's kind of as a result of applying your high-speed mindset down to lower BPMs.
Yeah. Because, like I said, this was more of just like a test area. I wasn't trying to do anything super crazy with this one. I thought the album was really, really good, and I wanted to chart it, so I just kind of hammered it out in the course of like 2 or 3 days. This was also the source of, I believe, my first chart appearances in the East Coast Stamina series, alongside Wish to This Sky from Skittles Selection 7, which is the odd stamina chart out of that pack. So that's when I would say that I had at least gotten to the point where I was of adequate or slightly more than adequate quality to be considered, playable in a tournament like an ECS 0.5 event, where it's a slightly more casual for most players. So eventually Resistance Device was finished. And then following Resistance Device, I finally got around to finishing DJ Myosuke, and it was released to great fanfare or something. I don't know. I released it. It was cool. It's still in ECS. And sometime after that, it was last year, where the Stamina Nation community held a chart writing competition called The Main Ingredient. Now this was a like a more casual, lighthearted. I don't want to say casual. That word has negative connotations. I would say a more lighthearted stepping event where rather than in the style of technical showcase or stamina showcase where you submit your best work for basically, rather than submitting a song, everyone got the same song and they had to cut it and chart it themselves and write a stamina chart to it as what they thought the best they could. So this kind of brought in, not only the chart was important, but also like understanding the concept of like pacing and all that kind of stuff. We could get into that again, kind of a rabbit hole there, but it's somewhat, I would say it helped for people like, I would guess like myself at the time, who were still kind of like learning how to write stamina. And the fact that musically everyone was kind of on equal footing. And the fact that the songs were intentionally chosen to be open-ended to chart. Like there was a lot of different ways that you could artistically represent the music in each of the songs.
There were two divisions, right? There was an upper and a lower.
In the first round, yeah. So in the first round, there were two. I wouldn't even call them divisions because way it was set
fast
up,
and slow.
Yeah, like ladders. I'd say there were two ladders. There was a fast song and a slow song. And then if you got through round one with either of them, round two you had to do both. So you had to chart two songs. You only had to chart one for round one, either the fast one or the slow one.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's super cool to see everybody chart the same song, because like no matter how poorly you do, you're going to have a reference to the people that did better than you, and you get to see exactly how other people charted the same bit of audio. And honestly, maybe I'll overlay it during this talk, but the fast song at least, does not
Tenebris.
have there's a lot of creative liberty. It's a very, very blank slate, for better or for worse.
So for those who don't know, the fast song in round one of The Main Ingredient was a dark psytrance song called Tenebris by Copophobia. And I'll skip the gory details, but charting dark psy is hard because there's a lot you can do right, there's a lot you can do wrong, but there's not very much that you can do really, really right. Which means like the three people who do it really, really right stand out really well. I entered both the fast and the slow ladder. I did not do super well in round one. I barely scraped into the finals. I think I was, because like only a certain cutoff of people made it into the finals. Just because that's just how the event was set up. Not a big deal. So the judges didn't have to judge like a million people for round two after doing it for round one. So I barely made it into finals. I think I was like 2 or 3 above the cutoff. Like I scraped into that bad boy. I would say it was probably because Tenebris was kind of a banger. I liked Tenebris. The lower speed song I actually hated. But
was that Mr. Kill Myself?
It was Mr. Kill Myself by Sewer Svt.
I think that was actually the song I was thinking of. I was not thinking of the fast song. The
No,
slower song was definitely a clean slate, for better or for worse.
It was also bad.
It's hard to write stamina to that song.
But yeah, so like, so
you
that
managed.
one, I managed. My Tenebris chart. I had a lot more fun charting that one, but was also not very good because I didn't really know how to chart Darkside well. I think my Mr. Kill Myself chart actually did kind of well, which I thought was shocking because I hated every second of writing it. Like, absolutely could not stand listening to that song. So I wasn't really vibing the songs in round one from being able to chart them well. But round two, I guess it was a combination of I liked the songs and I kind of just something clicked. And I went from barely making it into finals to I actually took third place in the whole event, behind Storytime in second place and Took in first place. Congratulations, both of them, of course. This was a while back, but yeah, so like at that point it was like, oh, I guess I know what I'm doing. It was also the fact that writing a good stamina chart to melodic death metal is really hard unless you really like melodic death metal. And so anyway, so coming off of the main ingredient, you know, I kind of had like it was exciting, you know, it was refreshing. It was like, okay, well, because at this point, I think the main ingredient happened after Skittles Selection 7 came out, which is pretty much my magnum opus of tech writing. Like, it's all downhill from here after that one. So, like, I got to the point where I was just like, okay, I can write tech. I can write tech. It's whatever. So being able to like getting that positive feedback, like I guess I can write stamina too. You know, it was very invigorating. It kind of a renewed lease on using arrows to make songs feel good. You know, so coming off of that, I ended up I think literally the day the results for the main ingredient dropped, I released either the day or the day after. I released my third dedicated stamina pack, Skittles Stream Collection, which was it's like 18 songs, I think. 18 songs. I think half of them had some lowers. So I feel like this one might have been a smidge overlooked when it first came out. You know, that's who's to say. But like 80% of the pack is in ECS 9.5 now. So people are gonna have to play it.
Is that across all divisions?
Yeah. I think I have charts in all three divisions, including 10 minutes of 270 that I wrote as a joke.
What is that rated?
Well, I didn't rate it. I refused to rate it. I left it as a 1, and I said, I'm not rating this. Here's your rating. It's 10 minutes of 270. We don't have, like, it doesn't work on the scale. Like, just don't even bother. It's 10 minutes of 270. But for the sake of ECS, Levitas rated it a 27. So now the joke is 10 minutes of 270 is the exact same difficulty as 90 seconds of 290.
So yeah, stamina ratings gets its own episode.
Yeah, stamina ratings. Don't get too up in arms about them, folks. Like, it's fun to discuss. Don't get up in arms about them. Just post lips, post the breakdown, and move on. Okay. It'll be fine. Everything's going to be all right.
I mean, Trevor, this is a very impressive rise to stamina writing proficiency. And I think that the big takeaway that I'm noticing that every creative knows and that every want-to-be creator needs to know is that you produced a lot of hot garbage, like a lot of it, before getting to where you are now.
You have no idea.
So yeah, you could do an entire episode on me going through my very first pack
and screaming at myself.
Yeah, we'll do Dance Games Daily for a full week of Skittles scraps.
No, not even Skittles scraps. Those are way better than the stuff I'm talking about.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, like your discard, like
yes.
never seen the light of day.
I took the download links down so no one else can look at them ever again files.
It's not even anywhere close to your Stepmania directory. It's somewhere else.
It actually is in my Stepmania directory, but it's not on my cab though. I don't even want to play these files.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody's into writing tech or writing stamina, just make things, get feedback, and make more bad things until it's less bad. Yeah,
like that's the two things I would say. It's like, and I feel like it's not just with the dance game. It's everywhere. Like it's just human nature. You see your idols, and you're like, I want to be like them. You know, it's like, oh, I want to be the best StarCraft 2 player in the world. I want to be the best ITG tech writer in the world. You know, I want to be the best Super Smash Brothers player in the world. You know, it's like, you're not going to just roll out of bed one day and suddenly be the best. You're going to have to put in the gains, and you're going to have to screw up a lot first. And it's going to hurt. It's always going to hurt because nobody likes to fail. Dealing with failure is hard. It's just human nature. We don't like to be told you didn't do good. If you do, I mean, more power to you. You can probably cope with it a lot better than most people. But like, the key thing to keep in mind is that there's two things. One, it's a video game. Two, the key thing to ask yourself is not why do they not? Or it's not like, why did I mess this up? The key thing to ask yourself, and in turn ask the people who are telling you didn't do well, is what do I do to make it better? Because 99 times out of 100, unless you're talking to someone like me who's just a jerk, people are going to say, even if it's just like three sentences, they'll be like, well, here's what I didn't like. Sometimes you might have to read between the lines a little bit because, I mean, it's the internet. People are mean on the internet. It's what we do. Like, sorry. This is why I left social media. I can't stop being mean to strangers. I'm really sorry. It's a bad habit. But it's like, you got to read between the lines there. Like, if someone is willing to go out of their way to say, hey, this kind of sucks, chances are, if you just prod them a little bit, they'll say, okay, well, this is why it sucks. And then you just got to say, okay, cool. Well, next time I'll try not to do that.
Yeah, I've been in the same position with either drumline rehearsals or drumline auditions where some of the instructors are a bit aggressive about how they deliver their information. And some people find it demoralizing, but sometimes, I mean, if they're giving you feedback because they have a vested interest in you improving, like regardless of the delivery, so sometimes you have to ignore maybe the delivery of the speech, take the feedback and the words for what it is, absorb that, discard anything else.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. Discarding the excess baggage is hard, but if you can kind of do that bit by bit, it just next thing you know, it's like, hey, you don't even have to think about it anymore. I kind of know what I'm doing. Or you can pull a Zaya and release a chart in the ancient era of charting when nobody actually knew what was doing, get roasted for it, and then go into hiding for like 6 years and come back to be the best stamina rider in the world. That's probably not conducive to like getting things done quickly, but worked for at least one person.
All right, Tev. Now that we've covered your background and step writing, rise to notoriety, let's look at a few charts. And just for some background for the people watching, I guess, Tev, you can kind of teach me what's going on with these charts, but my background is that I do play stamina. I know at least that it's not completely mindless streams. And I do know that a lot of step artists put a lot into patterning, but despite playing a lot, I'm still not a step artist. The only thing I can do is I can recognize when patterns are hard. I can recognize when they're uncomfortable or comfortable, and I can maybe like identify when charts are bad, but not necessarily what makes a stamina chart. Like, really good. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what chart are we gonna look at first, and why did you pick this one?
Okay, so this chart, hang on, let me get comfortable here. So this chart is a chart to a song called Frenzy Night by Demetori. It is a Toho arrange. It's a bit like basically heavy metal, I guess you could say. So I sent this. This is from my my 5th pack. I sent this one to you primarily because, as you mentioned earlier, how before I knew what I was doing, I could write good content. I wrote a lot of hot garbage. I wouldn't say this one is hot garbage, but it's definitely at least lukewarm. So I sent you this one. I wanted to go into it because there is a pretty significant amount of stuff in this one that I think isn't just wrong, but bad. But there are some inklings of understanding that begin to show themselves here, where it's very clear that it was like I wrote it with intent, but at the time I very much did not know what I was doing.
All right, should we get into it?
Absolutely. So if you just want to stop real quick, it depends on how you want to handle this. So real quick here, I won't get into too many of the details. So right here, you notice that I kind of just wrote this intro like a normal chart. And I feel like this is totally fine. Today, if I went back and recharted this, I might do this. I might just write this as stream here. But as it stands, like I feel like what I did here is a little anemic, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's just very plain and boring, and I could have done more with it in terms of like stream writing here. That's just a brief aside. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. So proceed. Okay, so right here, and you don't have to stop this one, just real quick. Right here, I do just want to say that, like, this stream patterning, and I mean this with no sense of sarcasm or exaggeration, is like 90% mindless. I actually put... Alright, stop right here. Stop right there. You can go ahead and roll back up a little bit because we'll touch on something here. But up to that point, like measure 10 to measure 24, absolutely 100%. I put no thought into it beyond, you don't have to go all the way up there. Beyond like, well, this is the beginning and there's not much going on, so there shouldn't be any candles because candles have movement and that means energy and there's less energy here. Like, that is literally the only thought process I put into this. As a result, I would say that what I have here is playable, but boring. Pointless, does not match anything. You can make something that's, playable if you just kind of throw down some arrows and call it a day, but like I could copy paste this, like these entire 14 measures onto any other song and it would make just as much sense there as it does here. Maybe even more if I got lucky, because I literally put zero thought into this. And that because at the time I didn't know you could put thought into this. I was just like, yeah, just throw some arrows down, whatever. Now, if you go down to measure 23 here, let's point this out real quick. So this is a box. Some people may or may not know that I have opinions on these. We're not going to get into that. But if you'll notice, go ahead and play this part again and listen to this part real quick. So stop right there. So you notice right there, there's that kind of like the heavier snare impact. So obviously, like I was like, oh, that's something new. I got to do something with it. So it's like that's where the first ideas were. Like, there's something new in the music. I have to do something with it.
You're saying that the box is. You're saying that the box is a good thing, right?
I'm saying that the box is better than nothing. Right there, measure 27. Now, you might not be able to hear it on the recording because you can barely hear it when you're actually listening to the song, but you see this right here, this left arrow anchor. There's a very faint piano tinkling that goes on in the music at this point. So like I was like, oh well, that's something kind of unique. I need to do something with that. Like,
oh
you might
yeah,
not yeah, like you can barely hear it even when you're like listening to it in source. So I guess, you know, there's a good thing, like, hey, there's something in the music, I'm doing something with it. The bad thing is that I'm like charting to like this tiny insignificant background noise as opposed to something that's more like present in the music.
Yeah, dude. The audio gets compressed. You know, the speakers on machines are bad. Don't chart for things that you can only hear in headphones.
Yeah. If you have to turn your headphones up to max to hear it, don't chart a 30-second foot switch crossover burst to it. It's just gonna make us mad.
Should we keep going?
Whatever. Yeah. Go ahead. There's a box there for no reason. There's an anchor for no reason. That anchor's there for
there's a reason. It's not a good one.
No. That one doesn't have a reason. Neither does that one. Neither does that one. No, right there. Hang on. That one actually did have a reason. Go up to that box.
The boxes are the da-da, right? On the guitar?
Yeah, so like roll up one more quarter note.
These?
Yeah, so right here, that little up-down box, you know, it's like, and I actually didn't realize this when I was first looking at this. I was like, oh, I did write that, right?
Yep, and then the same box here for the
and
same
right here.
For the same guitar sound, right?
The guitar nyons or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not, a box doesn't really fit there. It doesn't really match what the music is doing, and that would take me, you kind of just have to develop a sense for that. But so we can see here, like, there's the occasional burst of like definite, defined intent with what I'm doing, but it's marred by excessive amounts of literal nothingness, awkward, pointless patterning choices that may or may not actually represent the music well, and just myriad other issues that, like, the good stuff does not make the whole any better, because, like, for the rest of it, I wouldn't say it's bad. Like, it's just like painfully, aggressively mediocre. That being said, there is one point, if you want to, we can actually go ahead and like scroll down to measure 44. There's one part where I actually do want to like call out, because like it's again like kind of like the seedlings of intent here. Right here.
Oh, okay, I see that, yeah.
Yeah. So like, and it repeats that for like 4 or 5 measures, I think. So like this one I can actually say like it was written with definite intent, and like I don't really know how to describe it, but like you kind of feel like the movement that you're going through there matches like the guitar riffing and all. Like it just, that part actually kind of fits.
Well, yeah, because the guitar sound has like this repeating pattern, like
yeah, it's like a repeating thing. Yeah, that keeps going back to that same like intro like chug.
But it's the same.
So it's like,
but it's the same for the length of 2 beats. So what you have is this pattern that lasts 2 beats, and if I'm correct, you have this pattern, and it's the exact same thing for the next 2 beats as well.
It's a 2 beat long pattern that goes for 4 beats.
And it just matches the sound of the phrasing of the guitar.
Yeah. And then like I just kind of like I mirrored it horizontally, and then I mirrored it vertically, you know, that way it's not just completely repetitious like and super monodirectional, but
yeah, and it's got to
like,
be one of those,
the movement is the same.
Right.
It provides the same energy that the guitar has. So
it's going to be one of those things where if you're not familiar with stamina charting, you're going to see a copy paste and you're going to think it's lazy. But in fact, it's doing the opposite, like, because
this is completely correct. Like if I'm a musical artist and I write a 16 measure chorus that's amazing, I'm not going to rewrite a completely different 16 measure chorus, you know, 48 measures later in the song, I'm just going to take the music and copy paste it because that's what a chorus does.
Right.
If the music is doing the same thing, the steps should do the same thing.
You found a musical idea
mix
that
it up
works.
a little bit so it's not like super, boring, but like, you're putting arrows to the music. If the arrows match the music at point A and point A repeats itself later, don't redo your work.
Absolutely.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Stick with what works. So yeah, I just wanted to call that out. There's not really much more we can talk about in this one other than me just going, God, I had no idea what I was doing. But I did want to call this out, this, right here, you can kind of see, I was very intentionally, the movement in this section was trying to follow the guitar. So that's, the one bright spot in the middle of all this.
All right, so the next chart we're going to look at is Shoot for the Sun. What pack is this in? Why did you pick this one?
This one actually is not in a pack yet. It is unreleased. It is the newest chart out of all the ones that we may look at today. So yeah, this one's unreleased. It will go into a super secret mega pack that will release at the end of this year. This one is I sent you this one because I don't want to say it's by virtue of being the newest. It's one of my best charts because trust me, sometimes you just make a bad chart no matter how much practice you have in. But just upon reviewing some of my more recent works to send to you for this, the more I looked at this one, the more I was just this one kind of hits it. This one does everything I want to do in a step chart that I am have the knowledge of doing when it comes to stamina. Also, the song slams. It's amazing. So, if it means I can make more people listen to Paladin, I'm all about it.
Alright, should we get into it?
Absolutely.
Ooh, okay, this is hot.
Oh wait, I need to actually talk about this chart, not just sit here and air guitar to it. All right, so right here, go back up to measure 8 before we get too far into this. Go back up. So, I hope everyone was able to actually hear the song because I was jamming out. I'm sorry. So, play these two or three, roll up a little bit and then play 2 or 3 beats. So
you have those guitar hits going on that's being accented.
Yeah. We'll talk about the beat.
Right?
Okay, so roll back up to measure 8. Yeah, so let's talk about that. So, and I'll try not to spend too much time on this because there is a lot more I can talk about in this chart than in the previous chart we looked at. Because this one just hit all the right notes for me. Sometimes you just knock one out and you're just that one's a good one. So right here we've got these little triangles. That one and then the next 3 notes down. So these things, they're switching the player's directional facing. Now I know these days pretty much everyone just looks forward and just does this, but you kind of angle a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's just switching your directional facing to accent those power chords.
And also left side of the pad, right side of the pad.
What?
But,
yeah.
Yeah, but also
yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Left side of the pad, right side of the pad. Now there's no candles or anything. What I could have done to force a direction change would be left, down, left, up, down, up. That would also accomplish a direction change, but that's a really aggressive direction change. This is hi Tommy. This is I just saw so it's the very beginning of the chart. And it's a high energy song, it's power metal, but so it's high energy, but energy and intensity for musical relevance and charting, it's all relative. So this might be a high energy song, but it's also the very beginning. It's still the intro, man. You can't use all the big high impact patterns that you have in your back pocket when you're just getting started. You have to build into that. So what I did here is just, two little candles, two little triangles with no candles. there is a candle right after it, but that's because like if you play it again, go back up. Yeah, play it. Like right there, it kind of goes into that like that sick little guitar thing, Like so, yeah. Okay, we throw a little, we slap a little motion on that bad boy because it's awesome.
This is the.
Yeah, well, actually, roll. It was roll up a little bit because there's another thing we got to talk about here. Like right there, that one on beat. Oh, you don't even have your beat showing. You only have the measure. Wow, what are you, a scrub? Maybe. Look at this guy. He doesn't.
I'm sorry. I'm trying. I'm learning.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. I know what I'm talking about. See, that's the problem. I know what I'm talking about. I have an ego about it. Yeah, right there. That bad boy. That candle. Yeah, you slap a little motion right there. So yeah. So that's how I accented the power chord impacts. Direction. Again, like going back to what I said earlier, Zaya and Rims were two of like my main like stylistic influences for the use of direction and facing changes to accent music. Okay, hit play. Right here. Yeah. Like the 2 beats above measure 10. So right here, it's like, you'll notice like there's 2 candles in a row. Actually, there's 1, 2, 3 candles. Like that just sort of whoosh, look at all that motion. So the reason I do that is because the guitar part actually like flares up in pitch. It gets a little on it. Gets a little of that zazz, So you got to emphasize that. But like the reason why I just did the triple candle into the triangle on the upright is because it's like it's still directly like referencing the convention, the pattern conventions that I just established for using the triangles to mark the chord impact. So that's why like. And, sometimes it just comes down to the song just works. Right here, it's just like I could just slam into this thing, hit that triangle to emphasize, that part, and then use all the candles to emphasize the fact that the guitar is doing cool stuff.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, so go back up to where he says vision. So you'll notice that right here, like, there's the double triangle again, but it's monodirectional facing. So the reason I did this is because it's matching the extended time on the word vision, which the guy is saying at this point. So it does the two triangles, and then that second triangle leads into the side anchor to match the higher number of syllables on the coming vocals.
So this right-facing double triangle
is matching to the word the singer's word vision, which he kind of extends outward for a beat, and then like coming after vision, he's like vision burning in your head, and it kind of like he hammers that next bit out, kind of a little more rapid fire. So that's what that anchor is like. It's like, and it's all the same pitch. Like when he comes off vision, he says burning in your head, rapid fire with the same tonality. So that's what the anchor is referencing, more or less.
Oh, right burning.
Yeah.
And then it's actually maybe not the entire anchor, but particularly I think of these two. Your right foot is accenting those lyrics, right?
Yeah, and the anchor like. Yeah, because like burning. Of course he's not saying the word until the quarter note and the eighth note, but like the with stamina it's less about like the micro, like the specific step, and it's more about like the phrase, the musical, like the whole thing, the whole package. So it's like it's just so cool.
Yeah. I would never have noticed that without talking to you about this.
I'm so happy with how this chart turned out. Yeah, and the vision burning in your head. And he's like, that's what the anchor's going to.
Burning.
Because burning in your head is like all the same tone until head. Which we actually mention because that's the next thing I have noted. Is it? Let's see. I have it, beat 100. It is, actually. Yeah, so we're not even getting a beat down before I have something else I want to gush about. You realize how this whole interview is basically just me talking about how cool I am? Or how cool I think I am?
That's why I have you on, man.
All right, so roll up a little bit. We can hit it again. Not that far, but yeah, that works. I mean, it's okay. I get to listen to.
Oh,
so right there, that little sweep. Yeah, the sweep downward is to like the part where he says burning in your, like the pitch kind of goes, it's like burning in your, like obviously I'm exaggerating and I don't want to start singing on camera or anything. Please, God, don't make me do that. But it's like burning in your, like he kind of steps the pitch down. So I'm sweeping down the pad because like there's a slight, like there's a little bit of emphasis on it because the pitch steps down. And then he whips into, if you hit it again, right there, the part, like he sustained, like that part, the head, burning in your head, like that's very high energy, high pitch, it's intense. So we, like, helicopters are pretty intense. So we just a couple beats of copter to match the high energy sustained like vibrato like high pitch vocals. That's a recurring motif for the guy's vocals. When he sustains out really high pitched notes, I use some helicopters.
That's actually incredible. I definitely noticed the helicopter, but I did not notice the downward inflection on the word your.
Yeah, I mean at 168 BPM you can get away with a lot, so helicopters it is.
I'm trying to highlight this correctly so I can listen to it again. Oh, okay, I see it. It's not right only here, that it goes down, but he like pitch bends it down.
Yeah. And then right here at measure 26, like we don't even have to go far. I got another thing we can talk about. So right here, like, go ahead and play this part. Right there, white hot, one shot. Same kind of thing as when I was talking about the anchor on vision burning in your head. No, you didn't go to.
Did I go up far enough?
Yeah, start at measure 26. Right here. White hot, one shot. It's like literally the first beat of measure. Here. Yeah, the left, right, and then the right, left, right.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of musical emphasis and musical reasoning as the anchor on burning in your. It's rapid fire, low pitch, single tonality vocals. But they're very short. So rather than doing like a full anchor, I just do left, right, left. Just to emphasize the fact that dig it up. Yeah. Like if you start like a beat or so up, highlight it and then like start it.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, that kind of thing. So the left, right, and the right, left, right, they're accenting, like I said, that white hot, one shot, the low pitch, monotone, rapid fire vocals. But rather than being like a directional triangle, they're, forward facing, no candle, no directional facing. It's like he's just like almost grunting these vocals out in comparison to coming off of that strong sustained vibrato on burning in your head. So like, I want to emphasize that he's doing something here, but I don't want to like cut in on the energy that I gave the other stuff. So we're just facing straight forward, just a quick little dig it in place.
This is so much attention to detail. Like, stamina artists in general, have you guys been doing this long enough that catching these details is more, I don't know if muscle memory is the right word, but you already have a knack for it. You've learned the systems around it and you recognize these situations a lot easier just over a long period of time. Like, how long does it take for you to produce something of this level of detail?
I just do what the music tells me to do, man. Remember how I said I don't have to think to write tech?
Yeah.
If the song's good enough, stuff like this happens.
Something you have told me before is that every song already has a chart and you're trying to find it.
Yeah, basically. Some people it just clicks. Some people have to work at it and figure it out. Some people have different ideas on what patterns represent what sounds. I'm not sure. I feel like if you play a lot or just watch a lot or read a lot of stamina, like you kind of start to realize what people do. So, and then you can kind of take that and mold it to your own style. And sometimes, like, you got to find a song that you just vibe with, man. And this is one for me. So I only have like a few more things that I want to specifically talk about here. You can hit it play, but we'll stop again around beat 112.50. Right there. Oh no, it's a box. So why did I use a box here? As I mentioned, I may or may not have gained a little bit of notoriety for a certain rant I gave at one point about boxes. So I don't want to get into all that, but let's see. So why a box? If you listen to the guitar, like roll up a little bit, like a measure or two, and then hit play. So you hear, like, up until that point, like, the guitar is doing, like, constant, it's basically just strumming, right? Digga, 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 digga. Right there, it's just, he hits a chord and sustains it. So right here in measure 28, the music actually transitions into a slightly lower energy, I'll call it a bridge section. I don't actually know what the correct musical terminology is, but it transitions into, like, a lower energy bridge. That
maybe
uses
pre-chorus.
Some, like, pre-chorus, sure. With like some sustained guitar, like power chord notes, as opposed to the repeated chugging on the strums. So since the music steps down in intensity, you have to step down the patterning in intensity. And what's one way to get less intensity and less energy? Less movement. So rather than a monodirectional sweep, it's just stationary. It's a box on the word pull. There's a lot I could go into with this one. But if you want to go down to like beat 189.50, or a little bit before it, maybe. Right there, those double boxes. Man, I went from boxes bad, don't use boxes, to 2 boxes in a row. What's this guy doing? So the reason I did this is because, like, it's matching the background vocals on Shoot for the Sun. Now, why did I use boxes as opposed to, triangles, mono sweeps, candles, what have you? Well, one, because even though it's like there's some power behind the vocals at that point, they're kind of background vocals. Like, it's not the lead singer, it's the other members of the band, like, jumping in, with their own, with their energy. So it's like, I didn't want to use a whole bunch of other crazy, like, helicopter-y candles, triangles, all that kind of stuff, because that's reserved for, like, the really powerful, potent notes that the lead singer is, throwing out. But I needed to match something on this part where the other band members jump in and say, shoot for the sun, because it doesn't happen anywhere else. This is the only part of the song where the other band members jump in for that. So doing the 2 boxes matches, like, the cadence and the syllabic relevance of the words shoot for, and then it goes into the anchor. All of this with no candles, by the way, because it's background vocals, there's less energy until the very end, which is actually after this part ends by a single 16th note. So all of this goes with no candles. The anchor goes into the fact that it's relevant to the syllables in the phrase the sun. Rather than being one word at a time, it's 2 words. So rather than a box, which is 2 arrows repeated, it's 3 arrows repeated. Potential spam. I'm so popular that even robots want my phone number. Yeah. That's the good shit.
I like it. I really like it.
So if you want to roll up about a measure or so, because this is like the first guitar solo, so a little bit different stuff comes in here.
So you're accessing those sets of 3 in the guitar with the anchors, right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of being silent here because I'm trying to figure out how, like, to get into this without, like, really just spending tons of time on it. But if you want to stop real quick,
can I take a stab at it and see how I interpret it?
If you would like to.
So when I listen to this section, the bum 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 bum, I hear these groups of 3, And so, wait, was that it? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
That didn't take long. You're correct, but it's the left foot that's anchoring to accent that.
Okay. But I guess that's interesting to me, seeing this for the first time.
You're interpreting. You're right.
But
you're just interpreting it differently.
But the group of three starts on an upbeat, whereas this anchor starts on a downbeat.
Well, yeah, because again, if you started everything precisely as the music did, as opposed to allowing yourself to be a 16th off every now and then, all of your accented patterns would start or emphasize the same foot. So that's another thing that I would say I learned from Zaya and Rims is foot balance. Typically these days, it can't always be done perfectly, but like, if you throw most of my newest charts in Breakdown Buddy, you'll notice that, if at all possible, most of my anchors on left and right foot are an equal number or close to an equal number. I try to make my candles be equal number. Boxes, like directional facing, I try to make them all balanced, emphasizing your left foot and your right foot. And if I have to offset a pattern by a 16th note to allow for that, I would rather have that symmetrical bodily balance as opposed to perfect accuracy on a single step in a 5,000 step song.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's just a result of this stream, is left foot dominant, meaning that all of the quarter note downbeats are on the left foot. You're saying if it was rhythmically accurate all the time, like I said, this
everything would be on the left foot, yeah.
And it would be super just like left dominant. The only way you'd be able to switch to right foot dominance is either dropping a note, which doesn't make sense in the context of the song at all, or forcing like a 24th in to turn to the other side.
And you really don't want to do that unless, like, I don't want to get into when you should and shouldn't do that because it's partially subjective. But like,
it's also just not in the song, so you shouldn't.
It's also just not in the song, so
you
just like
can't hear it.
Copy paste everything, move it down a single 16th, flip it horizontally. Surprise! Remember what I said about copy pasting the patterns when the music copy paste? Same thing.
Yep. And
anyway,
that balance is ultimately more important than accuracy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's only a 16th off. Like your body is going through. Your body's
abstract.
Your body's going through these larger motions anyways. It's not like tech. Yeah.
Yeah. And movement and facing.
Your body will still be going through the correct movement at the correct time.
Absolutely.
Got it.
I'm kind of flowing between like the anchors and the sweeps to represent, like you were pointing out, the dun dun dun, those plucks, and then like the sweeps and the intentional monodirection and like very defined directional changes and sweeps. So the plucks are accented by the anchors, and like the directional sweeps are accenting like the sustained note on that third pluck. Now there's some leeway that you have to take here, otherwise you're just going to be sitting there like sweeping back and forth in the same direction. Typically for slower stuff like this 168 BPM, I'll try to sustain a pattern. If there's a note or some musical thing that I'm trying to emphasize that sustains for more than like 2 beats, I'll emphasize it in my patterning for like a beat and a half or 2 beats, and then after that I pick something else to avoid getting stagnant with my pattern choices, unless it's like something extremely powerful that just deserves to be emphasized, like high-pitched vocals that are getting helicopters. So that's really the main thing here, is the anchors to accent the guitar plucks, and then the sweeps to accent the third sustained pluck. And the box to accent like the first part of the phrase, because it's a slightly longer lower note that has a little less energy than some of the other parts of this phrase.
Yeah, I'm noticing this idea of displacing by 1/16th note a lot more. Just to make sure you can get a balance of not only left foot and right foot dominance, but also left face, right face dominant.
It's really important for good directional balance and foot balance to understand how to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to get really repetitive. So if you just want to hit play and go down a little bit. Right there, that stuff with the vertical anchors into the staircases. So let's talk about that real quick. Right here.
You have like the tremolo picking and the guitar, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I've used anchors a lot in this chart. I like using side anchors. They're comfortable for me. Like, that's just personal preference. That's just my personal preference coming out in my artistic choices. I like side anchors. I use them a lot, is what it is. Right here though, this is a down arrow anchor, which has not appeared anywhere else in the chart. And it immediately, like, it's a left-facing down arrow anchor, but you come out of that and you immediately slam into a right-facing double staircase. Now, so what this is doing, none of those appear anywhere else. I think there's maybe one or two other like double staircases at some points, like, that are matching some really cool guitar parts. Unique music gets unique patterns. But you still copy paste it when it's relevant. Like, this is an 8-measure long solo. It kind of repeats it. It kind of repeats it, but like, it's still, it only appears once. This isn't like a chorus. This isn't a verse. This is it.
And as usual, you're making sure to be consistent. It's a tremolo picking followed by 2 scales, and then tremolo picking again followed by 2 scales. So you're making sure that pattern is being upheld.
And the staircases are monodirectional as opposed to alternating staircases, because the guitar notes are just like a set of 4 repeated. It's not digga 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 digga. It's digga 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 digga. That's pretty much all I had to say about the song. The rest of it's like, it's just a repeat of the chorus and like verse, and yeah.
That's all. You didn't have much to say. Just that.
Yeah, I only spoke for an hour and a half on 120 measures of music, 60 of which are repeated.
Should we look at the last chart?
I don't know. Do you want to look at the last chart? I want to look at the last chart.
Let's look at the last chart.
Let's look at the last chart.
All right, so this is the last chart we're going to look at. It's a transparent Metropolis of the sky, but I thought you were supposed to send me only charts that you made. This is an XJam chart.
Yeah. So, surprise. I'm XJam 09. This is a chart from my upcoming pack, XJam 09 Jams 2. Stamina Nation might have a field day with this. Not sure. I'm having a field day with it.
I had a field day with it when I saw it, and you sent me these files.
Good. Good. So this one I feel like is a good concept, good demonstration, in my opinion, of the concept of scaling. So scaling is actually, it's a term that gets thrown around a lot. It's a term that Zaya popularized. Like I said, he basically like kind of casually defined 2 or 3 different generations of stamina meta that I'm aware of. Scaling is a concept that it's difficult to really like pin down objectively, but it basically refers to like a gradual stepping up in intensity and complexity that most music naturally has, that ideally you want your patterning to mimic. And it's kind of like the term scaling basically stems from the phrase like scale up, like to scale up an image. If you scale up an image, you don't actually change the content of the image, you just make it larger. It just, there's more of it, it takes up more space, it's more in your face. So basically it's like, it's not completely changing what your patterning is, but it's growing it. It's expanding with the music.
Is this a chart where we can just kind of let it play through and you can talk over it and from like a high level?
Let's do that. Because like I said, I feel like Shoot for the Sun honestly was like the big one that I wanted to talk about.
There's a lot of meticulous details in Shoot for the Sky, and then I'm sure there are in this as well. But the takeaways you have.
A little less. Yeah, there's less of a takeaway. This one, I'm just pretty happy with how this one turned out. I think it turned out really well, both like in terms of craftsmanship. So like, Shoot for the Sun just had a lot of really good examples that I could point at and go this, that, or the other. But this one, so right here, like at this beginning part, it's like, it's kind of just like your chill, like, I won't say like meaningless, but like it's kind of relaxed, low-key, nothing too special drum and bass patterning with the 4-arrow anchors that are emphasizing the
Bum 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 bum.
Yeah, like I don't even know what that instrument
Bum bum
is.
bum bum. Yeah.
It's like
strings.
some kind of strings, yeah.
String section, yeah.
String section, yeah. So yeah, another reason why I didn't want to talk about this one too much is because it's actually the longest one that I sent you, and I didn't want to get too bogged down in it. So right there, in that last anchor, I introduced a candle that wasn't really present in some of the other ones. It's on the last like anchor of each phrase, and I've also introduced these boxes that are emphasizing that like synth sound. So I've kind of scaled up the anchor by adding a candle at the end of the phrase. Not so much that it's getting like crazy aggressive, because it's still kind of a low-key background part, but enough to draw attention to it. And then the boxes, of course, are just kind of drawing emphasis to a new part of the music that was not there prior.
The way I see this is that you started with like a bass patterning, and then as the song is layering new things in, you're adding more juice to complement that. But the bass layer that you set is still the same, you're just adding more things to complement that music.
Yes. And then right here, I've kind of been a little reserved with my directional changes in these eighth notes, because it kind of sets a motif for this part that comes in right here, where following the piano notes, like, there's a measure or a beat and a half of mono between those anchors, which are like hitting the high notes of the piano. So wow, we're kind of moving through this really fast.
Yeah.
These anchors, there's an anchor on each foot. That it's going so fast, I can't talk about all this cool stuff. But there's an anchor on each foot to accent the slightly stepping down notes of the piano. There's the monodirectional on each thing. Hang on, pause it real quick. Roll back up for like a few measures. Yeah, like hit play. Right there, that part where it's just a bunch of triangles, because it's like da 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 da. I did the direction changes where I could, but it's basically just like, it's kind of like just rapid fire. Da, da, da. It's kind of like, it's the same rhythm as what the anchors were going to, but like now the notes are changing faster than the anchors were changing, so it's like there's some movement there.
Is it weird that the piano is really just straight eighth notes, but really these triangles are accenting like a dotted eighth pattern?
Nah, that's just stamina,
rhythmically,
man.
Because the rhythmically is right?
You just do what you can. Sometimes you just got to do what the music tells you.
Right, and so I guess with
Don't think too
stamina, which I've already learned.
It's all about how you feel.
It's how about you feel, and more about how your body moves through the patterns, rather than
it's how your body feels,
rather than how the notes are placed.
Yep. Yeah, like just hit play right here. I think it's either like one more iteration of that. Yeah, right here. Ooh, violin kicks in, right? So now you'll notice there's a lot more candles. There's a lot more energy and movement. There's a hit breaker right there. Like, there's that anchor. Like, the violin kicks in. So I literally, what I did was I copy-pasted that same, like, musical pattern down, because that's still going on in the background. And then I just kind of built around it to emphasize the new layer of the violin. Like, that's the best way I can really, like, very, like, quick and dirty define scaling. It's like, the rest of the music is still there, and now we're just building more stuff on top of it without compromising what has already been established in the previous 32 measures.
There's a bass pattern that you've established already, and then, you know, that piano, ba-da-da-bum, still sometimes
and
pops
then the violin comes in. And then this part right here, it's actually just a repeat of the stuff that I was mentioning earlier. Pretty much the rest of it's just repetitive, like stuff that we already talked about.
But you're still making sure those piano accents that you were highlighting before still sometimes make it in, but you're just kind of layering these other things on top.
Yeah. That's basically like the best way I can. I won't say it's the best way, but it's like one of the quickest ways to like define scaling. It's like you've already like the music has established a theme. You establish a theme with your patterning on top of what the music's theme. When the music introduces a variation on its theme without modifying or compromising said original theme, you have to do the same thing to your patterning. You still have to match all the layers of the music. Anyway, there's a break and then there's a victory lap. Yeah, it's victory lap. You know how it'd be.
Still respecting the same things from before. Motifs.
Well, yeah, I mean, the music hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Please look forward to XJam 09 Jams 2 coming out whenever Stamina Showcase 3 Round 1 judging is completed, because my submissions are in there.
Why does XJam 09 exist?
We do not have time to discuss this. So, the short version as to why XJam 09 exists is because I thought it would be funny.
Nice. That's actually pretty on-brand. That's pretty on-brand ChiefSkittles behavior.
Yeah, I thought it would be funny. I wanted to see what would happen, so I just kind of did it.
It was funny. I've been asking myself, who is XJam09 since the last SRPG? And I've never known.
Hi.
So now the world knows. Yeah. Dance Games Daily exclusive premiere.
Dance Game, yeah, so my original plan was to do this dramatic reveal at, like, StaminaCon 2. And by dramatic reveal, I mean I was just going to register as XJam09 and wear the badge and see if anybody noticed. I was literally just gonna be like, I just wanted to see if anybody would like take the 2 seconds to look at my badge and see that it said XJam09 instead of ChiefSkittles.
To be fair, the StaminaCon badges are very cool. We all look at each other's. We all look at each other's badges.
That's why I was gonna do that, because I was like, surely someone will look at it.
People will definitely see it.
And then we had a pandemic, so that kind of ruined that. And I was debating like keeping it under wraps until we could actually have in-person events again, but like, it's been getting harder and harder for me to keep it a secret because, like, it took off. I never expected people to be like, who is this guy? Who is it? I thought people would be like, oh, it's so like, my reasoning here is like, naturally, like most of my greatest achievements, this comes off of only one of two things, either me trolling or me being angry about something pointless. In this case, it was the latter. I was mad about something. I was just extremely upset about some argument I had gotten into on Discord. I think it was about like getting noticed or being relevant and like step charting, like the whole like, golly gee, gosh darn, nobody cares about my charts. Nobody ever wants to look at me. Like, you know, like the whole self-defeating kind of thing. I really hate that kind of mentality. I get where it comes from, but like, I can't stand it. And like, I had spent entirely way too much energy debating people about like the merits of that sort of stance. So kind of just on a whim, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to invent this entire new person. I'm going to just invent this complete and utter rando. And I'm just going to start releasing content as this rando. And just, like, literally, like, the best stuff I could make. Like, high, like, not just total garbage, like, high-quality content. Just start throwing it out there as this complete rando and see what happened. I wanted to see if anybody would notice, if anyone would give feedback, if anyone would, like, realize, you know, hey, this guy actually, this complete rando actually knows what he's doing. Basically, I was being petty and vindictive, like I tend to be. So I did that, and I picked XJam09. It's actually a reference to a professional wrestling performer, Kofi Kingston. Which that's a bit of a long story. I can skip that if you want, but just know that it is a reference to Kofi Kingston. And if anybody wants to know the meaning behind it, I can tell them. So I made this like fake account. I actually forgot the login information for it. So the account's basically lost. It's still active in Stamina Nation. You can actually go tag it if you want to. So it's still in there, but I can't get into the account anymore. I'm gonna have to make it again and just be like, "Oops, I forgot my account." Haha! Like, that was my plan for releasing XJam09 Jams 2. But like, so I made this account, and my plan was like, I was just gonna make the account, join Stamina Nation, and just lurk for a couple months, like do nothing, just be there, because my plan was if anybody like thought, who is this guy? Where'd he come from? They'd like go back and they'd say, oh, he's been here for like months, but he never said anything. Huh. But what ended up happening, and this was not according to plan, I guess you could say, is that Arkai was collecting content for, I guess it was, I can't remember which one it was. It was either ECS9 or SRPG, one of the SRPGs, 3, or it had to be 4 because that's where the quest came from. So yeah, he was collecting content for ECS9 and SRPG 4. And I sent him everything I had stamina-wise that I had not released yet.
As you or as XJam?
As both. The only thing is, like, I just had, like, I just basically sent him the pack folders, and I just labeled the XJam one, hey, if you use this stuff, don't tell anybody who it is.
But he knew. He was in the loop.
So yeah. So immediately, the two people who knew were before Arkai knew because I sent him the stuff. Before he did, Storytime knew because I was like, I need to tell at least one person I'm doing this because I will absolutely lose my mind if I have to keep it a secret from everyone.
I felt that way about the prickly pear puzzle.
Yeah. I was like, I have to tell one other person because if I don't, I will go insane. So I told Storytime because, like I said, I consider him one of my best friends. So we're like, we're dying laughing about this because we're idiots and we think it's funny. So I sent him the stuff, and I never, at this point, I didn't think I was actually like that good at writing stamina. I was just like, hey, maybe if you need some filler content, here you go. And he ended up using, I think, 2 or 3 different charts out of XJam09 Jams 1 in ECS9. And then he used more of them in SRPG 4. And there was the XJam09 quest in there, which, God bless Arkai. He leaned into it. Like, I feel like had he not actually, like...
Who's XJam09?
Yeah, like, he leaned into it as hard as he could, and he made it this whole thing. Like, and I feel like had he not done that, I would not have had nearly as much fun with this as I did. But, like, he just absolutely blew it up, and I am still grateful to him for doing that because, like, I'm just having the time of my life, just like cackling in the background. Because at this point, nobody knows. Like, I'm having like these daily conversations with Alex. He's like, I can't believe XJam09 charted my favorite Noah song, Desperate Crusader. Like, Alex was like the most invested person in like, he actually didn't care in the end. I ended up, because I, like, spoiler alert, I actually told Alex recently. He was like,
I was hoping he would see.
Yeah, I was so upset. I thought it would be like super mad. Like, as a celebration for releasing Prickly Pear, I was like, oh yeah, BT dubs. I'm XJam. Sorry about Desperate Crusader. And he was like, oh, okay. I was like, come on, man. But no, so like at the time,
for how much
of a
fuss he made out of it.
Yeah, like, I was like, oh, how dare he come out and fight me, XJam09. Naturally he's playing it up. He's like, I'm gonna fight this guy. And I'm just like dying laughing at this because I'm just having the time of my life. So Ian just kind of leaned into it, and I'm eternally grateful. And that's pretty much it. Like, my initial plan kind of got derailed by some of the XJam charts inclusion in ECS events because, like, it kind of immediately threw him into the threw me into the forefront there, and it's like, well, now everybody's like, who is this guy? So I'm like, well, okay, so gear shift here. Now I'm just gonna, like, I'll pop in every now and then and like drop a random chart and be like, hey guys, I'm working on my next pack. It's XJam09 Jams 2. Hope you're looking forward to it. And then I lost the login information, so that never happened.
Here we are.
like most of my grand schemes, I had very little forethought put into this. I just thought it would be funny, and when it blew up, I just kind of went with it. I never expected it to become a whole thing. And maybe nobody actually cares. Maybe people are just playing along with it. I'm having the time of my life.
I care.
I hope somebody gets a kick out of this, because I've been just bubbling with anticipation. Like I said, I was gonna make Stamina Con 2 be the thing, but in the interest of my own sanity, I cannot keep it under wraps any longer. And just because I know someone will say something about it, well, hey, hold on a second. This chart was released publicly. He might not actually be XJam09. He could just be fake. I can pull up the GIMP project file for the banner artwork and prove that it was me right now. I can also pull up all the other files in the pack if you want. I won't, because my Stamina Showcase files are in there, and I really don't need to show those publicly. But yeah, like, take my word for it. Storytime can vouch for it. Archive can vouch for it. Thoth can vouch for it. I eventually told them that actually a couple of them were like, what?
They at least reacted more than Alex.
Yeah. Like, imagine, like, the whole thing, like, was basically just, like, of all the people who reacted, the person who I thought would react the most reacted the least. That hurts.
Well, thanks, Trevor, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I apologize for getting exceptionally long-winded. I hope editing this is not too much of a pain in the butt for you.
I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna give myself 2 days to edit instead of 1.
I'm sorry.
But I do love talking to you. I consider you one of my closest friends, especially one of the first people I really became friends with, like, in the community when I started interacting more, particularly with Stamina. I also just love talking Stamina. I love being as experienced as I am and still having these big gaps in knowledge.
You're gonna make me cry a little bit.
No. Before you cry,
hold it together. Big boys don't cry.
Before you cry,
big boys just complain about boxes.
Don't get too teary. You know, Everlasting is playing right now, but. Do you have any?
Oh God, now I am crying.
Yeah. Do you have any shoutouts before we end this?
I kind of threw in a little here and there randomly, but I would say shoutouts to first and foremost, I would say shoutouts to Okami, because had he not reached out to me for Comiket 95 and Stamina Factory, I may not have ever really considered picking up Stamina as a form of artistic expression. Again, shout-outs to the people that I mentioned earlier, Zaya, Rims, and Storytime, for basically teaching me how to write Stamina, and for the rest of Thoth, the Ivory Tower, whatever, for giving me all the feedback I needed for writing, like, everything from 110 BPM to 310 BPM. God, I know I'm gonna miss something, and I'm gonna look back and be, like, so upset that I didn't mention someone. But yeah, I mean, shout outs to Hosong for letting me Lucci right into that sumbitch. Please let me know when I can start spamming wide stance again. I won't promise to not do it. I will immediately start spamming wide stance again if you let me, but I understand why I can't.
And also turn the fuck up.
Yeah, please widen the stance up. I mean, yeah. No, like I said, I think that's, in terms of Stamina, like, I could shout out a lot of people. At the time of writing, I've kind of dipped out from social media, like, entirely right now, because I've been super duper, like, very stressed out with work, and, I've been being kind of a toxic influence on the community, which is not what I want to do, so, shout outs to anyone I may have offended by being a dick online. Sorry. I do mean things when I'm stressed.
Yeah, I know these shoutouts are typically for you, but I actually want to give a shout out to Houston ICG for kind of connecting us together for some reason, for being involved with Houston people. And also my shoutouts are to Red Zone Nova, in story time as well. For I think
Yeah.
the kind of the four of us.
Those guys are like two of my best friends.
Yeah.
They're up there for sure.
Seriously, just like the three of you guys are some of the people I talked to the most on Stamina Nation when I was first involved in it. So you guys have all been a really positive influence for me.
We like to have fun here, except for when we don't.
Anything else to say, or you shouted out and
Sorry about the boxes thing.
that's
About
okay.
it.
All right, well, thanks again for ChiefSkittles / Trevor / XJam09 / XJam10.
No, I'm actually not XJam10.
Whoa, okay.
I
So
know
now-
who it is, but I'm actually not XJam10.
Okay, well,
The mystery continues, kids.
thank you for being on. I love talking about stamina content, but I love playing it. It's still a body of knowledge. I still have a lot to learn more about. So if there's stamina guests that you guys want on, let me know. Otherwise, seriously, thanks again for continuing your support of Dance Games Daily. I'll catch you guys next week.